a time for just this little vignette about my own life when my bearings around feelings at one point were very difficult to access. It was time when I was in high school, as a teenager, and as is sometimes the case, especially when people go through puberty, there's a shifting in how we're presenting in life. We're shifting from that childhood to adulthood. There can be territories in that growth where things are, kind of uprooted, supplanted, being replaced, not only in our physicality and our hormones and all those things, but even in our emotional life and our ways of perceiving. And at that time, I came across this experience where I couldn't feel things. And it wasn't exactly like a kind of numbness or something. It was more like an absence of familiar feelings. And I remember the one that really unsettled me a bit was I couldn't feel love for the people that I loved so much. And I was used to feeling that in my heart, and just sort of in my person. When I would typically, when we're with someone we love, it's almost as though there's this mirroring of something that fills the heart. Maybe it's a kind of connection between our hearts, or a kind of shine that lights up, and one heart kind of awakens a joy to be in the presence of a dear friend or something like that. But I was with all these people that normally I would feel joy to be with certain friends or to spend time with them, or certain family members. And not that that's always a joyous thing, but I even when it wasn't, somewhere underneath, I felt like I loved them, even if it was a difficult wait time of relating or something. But I couldn't feel that. I couldn't feel the more pleasant forms of love, and I couldn't even feel underneath that. But my mind told me, I know I love these people because my actions and my history have taught me that from direct life experience. And that's something you can always refer back to, your direct life experience. But at that time, I couldn't feel love, and it was alarming. And it went on for some days. And I remember telling a very close friend about it. And it just really kind of scared her. And she didn't really know what to say. But she did say, I love you. And I want you to know that, like, regardless of what you're feeling. And then I told my mom about it. And my mom is a person who, when she feels alarm, if she does, she masks it pretty well as a parent, I think she knew I needed assurance. So I could kind of see in her eyes a little bit like, ooh, what do I say about this? Like she was stumped, right? But then she modeled this great teaching, which is she let herself not know when she was stumped, like, wow, how do I give guidance to my daughter in this territory? She stopped, and I saw her. I could read her face really well. I know her so well. And she went from a little bit like, uh-oh, to, because she'd asked me how long was this going on, and I said, I think it's been a week, and that kind of surprised her. And then she got quiet. She modeled that, and she just got quiet, and she stopped. And she just said, well, let's see how it goes. It might shift. It might change, might change tomorrow. Or it might change relatively soon, or why don't we just check back in, in a week or something. And sure enough, the concern that I had about it lifted, because I realized, oh yeah, this could really change. And there was something in my knowing that I imagine you share, which is this deep knowledge from life experience that everything changes. And yet my mind that was reflecting on this and had lost its bearings in this touchstone of feeling needed that reminder. It needed to bring forward in consciousness that intelligence that knows this too shall pass, that everything changes. And, it could be sometimes we experience things that take a really long time to change, or sometimes they change briefly, but then they revert back. And so there are parts of our direct experience that may feed into fears that things may not change to our satisfaction. But there's something about stepping into completely the possibility that change is inherent in the workings of the display of life. It's part of how the life intelligence moves that can reconnect us to that intelligence of life, to a kind of faith in that intelligence of life, that when we're not resisting what's occurring, when there's allowance for it to present how it needs to present, that it moves and shifts and changes. And in myself, I believe, looking back, that it was part of a shifting and changing of who I was as a child into who I would become through adolescence into an adult. And it taught me so clearly that we can move forward and that life moves itself forward even when we don't feel the courage to move forward.